Morning, folks. We're here this morning with Jordan Jones from JDS Home Improvement.
Morning.
Today, we're talking egress windows. Now, listen, for those of you who don't know, an egress window is a replacement window for the very standard, and we've all seen these before. It's the small basement window. Usually it's about 4 or 5 foot up on the basement wall. Where on the exterior, you can see how small the well system is on these. There's a couple problems, Jordan, as I know we're going to talk about today. One is very little natural light can sneak into these basements. But the bigger problem is there actually is no legal and safe way to get out of a basement in the case of an emergency without a full egress window, right? So I know these are extremely popular. Why are so many homeowners starting to ask for these and installing these in their homes?
I think they're popular because people realize the value in their unfinished space in their basement. You know, maybe don't have the money to add or the room to add an addition, or and they just really want to utilize the square footage that they have. And the first part to doing that is to put in a fire escapable window and to make a legal bedroom typically. So yeah, the egress window essentially is just an escape route out of the basement in case of an emergency. Has to be a certain size window, which I can get into the codes later, but the well has to be a certain size, essentially all based around a firefighter being able to get in and out easily. And along with the escape, window being a certain size, it also adds a lot of natural light and ventilation to the basement. So it's nice to have that as well, but always safety first, of course. We're also going to be touching on the importance of drainage when you do an egress window and how to achieve that correctly. If there isn't a drain tile, what to do in that circumstance, and just a little bit more about the whole process, really.
So listen, guys, we're going to be here all week. It's generally about a week-long process. I know we're doing 2 here. It will extend into a full basement remodel. We're going to meet some of the crew here from JDS Home Improvement. We're looking forward to showing you the job. We're going to go on the inside. Let's see the before, and at the end of the week, we'll get to see the after. Okay, guys, now that we're on the inside, you can see why we're here. We looked at these hopper windows from outside, remember, through the well. When you see how small these really are, 2 points. One, the very minimal amount of natural light that can come through. When you see this job at week's end, remember, we're going to do 2 of these, one here, one on the other side of this basement. It's going to be a complete transformation in terms of the light. More importantly, you cannot get out of this basement in the event of emergency. If the stairwell's blocked or there's a fire and you can't go up that stairwell, you're trapped. And that's why this is a law. That's why there's a code for this. Jordan, you're going to talk a lot more about this. But listen, a child couldn't reach it, and certainly an adult could never make their way through this tiny little window up here. So I know, Jordan, when we're done, the actual window, it's going to extend all the way down to about here on the wall. You can easily open. You're going to step right out, and you're off to safety. Tell us a bit in terms of, we're going to see a lot of the outside this week, the digging, the preparing of the outside space. On the inside, what are we looking at and what's going to unfold this week?
So essentially we're just gonna, we're adding 2 28 by 48 inch windows, in-swing casement windows. And we're gonna cut this out, expose the foundation, and then cut the foundation out from the outside. We're gonna set up a room in here that's gonna barricade from dust, cover the floors, protect everything really well as we're doing our work. But the biggest thing for these windows is obviously safety. Safety first. That's the reason why people do this. That's the reason why it's a code. It's just too small. I mean, there's no way that you could really get out of here, even if you really tried. So essentially the code's there for a reason, to be a particular size. We're gonna add a 28 by 48 inch window, which we're gonna drop it down. The rough opening will be 50. It's gonna be right down to here. So that's about 30 inches off the floor, well within the 44 inch code maximum that is there for a reason. So it's gonna look something like this, come all the way down, be very easy to get out of. One handle will turn and open. We'll show you guys when we're finished. But that's the safety aspect. The biggest wow factor that people see is, now that this has windows down here in the basement, the light has drastically changed. So the wow factor I always get is people are blown away by the amount of light that it adds. Even just one window is going to add a huge amount of light and make it a livable space. So And there's also another code that's has nothing to do with safety, and it's often overlooked. It's a light and ventilation code. So the window is, the code states that a window or the glazing width in the windows, which is essentially the aggregate size of all the windows in a room needs to be 8% of the floor area of the room itself. So, so if we added up these two windows together, is it 8% of this floor area of this room? Definitely not. So again, that code is not nearly as important as the safety code for egress windows, but it's there because to have habitable space, it makes sense. You need light and ventilation as well.
Yeah, and Jordan, I will say we visited you on some jobs where not just windows, we have seen some home office applications where the cut-in was larger, patio doors were dropped in, and there was an exit point so that someone had a separate home office. So point being, there's lots of different options. There's window sizes, there's doors, there's all kinds of decorative things that can be done outside in the window well system itself. All things that you sure could talk more about. But for now, we're going to start the process. We're going to see some of the digging. We're going to meet the crew. We're going to follow along this week. Can't wait to see the finished product.
Hi, I'm Charles West. I've been in the design construction business for 48 years. I assist JDS Home Improvement in getting their egress window permits. When their jobs expand into basements and small additions and things of that nature, I'm typically called upon to visit the house, and I will do a free design consultation, and sometimes people will hire me to move on into a design agreement, at which time we will put your existing house and your proposed desires onto CAD drawings, and we come up with an Excel spreadsheet to establish the cost budget. We try to help walk you through all of the budgeting process to make it easy on you, help you understand what it is you're getting ready to invest your money in.
Hey guys, I'm Nick. I'm a supervisor here at JDS Home Improvements. I oversee a lot of these jobs throughout the year, and I can't wait to see you guys in the near future.
One of the main things, like I said, that I wanted to address is water and how we deal with groundwater and how we deal with keeping your basement dry when we're essentially making it more susceptible to water penetration by cutting a big hole in it. So what we're going to go into here is how we dig all the way. This is a schematic of how we dig all the way through the footing. This is a section through drawing of what your system will look like. What we see here is the footing. Right on top of that, that's an 8-inch thick piece of concrete. On top of that is the slab that you stand on inside. This is the interior of the home. Slab is usually 4 inches thick. This is the outside. What you should see here is a drain tile. This is the drain tile depicted in the picture here. More commonly, we find the drain tile right next to the footing, right there where I drew a little circle there. So what we do is dig down to the bottom of the footing looking for the drain tile, and if it's there, we can tap it, tie into it. We test it, make sure it's actually working. If a lot of times it could possibly be clogged. So this is a drain tile that is actually 100% clogged, and this is actually a drain tile where the name came from was prior to 1960. They were using terracotta tiles to achieve the same thing that we use now, a 4-inch corrugated perforated black pipe, which you see here. So this is more common. So essentially that's a drain tile you're looking down at, the same as the picture right here. So again, the height of the drain is critical to being able to drain and alleviate any pressure, water hydrostatic pressure or water building up in the window well. I use the analogy that your window well is similar to a bathtub. A bathtub has two drains. One protects against overflow of the tub, and the other one is there to drain the entire tub. So the height of the drain in the bottom of the tub is critical to draining the water out of the tub. So in that analogy, the window well being the tub, you want to make sure that not only do you not have water spilling over the top of the tub to get through the window and flood your basement that way, but you want to drain all the water out and keep the tub completely empty. You don't want water sitting on your foundation for multiple reasons. The first reason is if the water level rises to the point where now it is past the top of the footing, and if it goes 4 inches more than that, now the water level is equal with the slab inside. As soon as the water table is equal with the slab inside, water can be pushed through the crack in the foundation wall and the slab, and actually you'll see seepage coming between the crack right here in the foundation wall and the slab, or dampness. So that's the first threat that water causes. If the water level table rises now where it's past the height where it's equal with the slab inside, and it's water sitting on the foundation, these arrows here represent hydrostatic pressure. Water sitting stagnant on your foundation can cause structural damage to your foundation. So structural damage obviously is something you want to avoid when you're doing this, doing an egress window. So keeping water completely off the foundation, keeping the foundation dry, protected from hydrostatic pressure, protected from structural damage is key. And the third and most common and often thought is the only water threat that's caused by this is the water level is now risen to the point in the window well where it's actually flooding through the top of the window and flooding the basement through the window. So we not only protect against one threat, we protect against all three of those threats and make sure that your basement is going to stay dry and that the drainage system is going to work properly. So a couple of critical pieces of information to see here other than a guy standing in a hole is the height of the excavation is very important to being able to drain the well out at the proper height. I went over earlier with the schematic that you never want the water level to rise to be equal with the slab level inside. So in order to achieve that, we need to dig down to the proper height. So we've dug down here. This is the footing. We've dug down to the bottom of the footing, which is right down here. We're going to put a little bit of gravel down and set our pump basin at the bottom of the footing so that when the pump is actually triggered, the water level never rises to being higher than the slab level inside. Another couple things to see is this house is built of brick and block. The block wall has a parge coat on it. The parge coat comes down and I don't know if you can see it, but right here it kind of curves out like that. That's called a bell curve. A bell curve is put on the bottom of the block wall and on top of the footing to create a area where the water can just go off the footing and be directed to a drain tile, which in this case there is no drain tile here, but at least we have a bell curve that will push. If water comes down the wall, it's going to put it in straight into our pump essentially and not sit directly on the footing. Another key element to keeping your basement dry is setting the well at the proper height. So what we do is if we're doing one well system or multiple well systems, we'll take the highest point of grade around the one well or the multiple wells and set our well about 5 inches above the highest point of grade. So right here where Nick is standing is approximately the highest point of grade in this area. So what we do is we set the well level on that and make sure that the lip of the well is 5 inches above the highest point of grade. That way we can do what I call a pitcher's mound. We'll mound around the well later with the grading so that we create a berm so that water naturally will never flow. It'll go around the wells and never fall into the wells.
I'm Josh Jones. I work with JDS. I'm the on-site project manager and also a master carpenter. I've worked with Jordan for the last 12 to 13 years, teaching me many things. I've also worked with my dad, building 2 or 3 different houses. Jordan and I both. He's my brother. You're too big to grab around your big arm. Getting swole. And one of my best friends also. He has taught me so much, but we've done from new renovations to historic renovations to new projects to now we do these egress windows and making safe basements. Today we're going to be focusing on doing drainage and setting the sump pump crocks at the right level at the bottom of the slab so that the water would never rise above the side of the wall and begin to leak in through the crack of the foundation where the foundation sits on the slab. It's good to talk to you guys, and I'll see you next time.
Something I wanted to get into a little bit and a little bit more detail was drainage. So drainage is critical to an installation of an egress window and having success and having a dry basement over the years. So what we do is we dig all the way to the footing, like I showed you, to the bottom of the footing to if a drain tile is there, we find it, we tap into it. This is typically what a drain tile looks like prior to or after 1960. They've been making it out of 4-inch corrugated perforated black pipe. Prior to 1960, it was actually terracotta tiles. But if we do not find a drain tile that is functioning and clear, then at that point I move to a secondary drainage plan, which is typically a external sump pump system. It is the most cost-effective, most effective way and efficient way to drain these systems properly. So that being said, I use a pump called ProFlow. The ProFlow makes a pump that's has a warranty for 5 years. Most other pumps have a 3-year warranty. This is a ProFlow pump. It's a cast iron build, very solid pump, very heavy. Can pass 1/2-inch solids and doesn't get jammed or clogged. And it comes with a vertical float, which is the best float system. It's very compact and a very efficient, high-powered pump that actually uses less voltage than most other pumps in its class. Another thing that is good to have on a pump is a check valve. So a check valve, a full flow swing check valve, which is supposed to be connected to the pump as close to the discharge as possible. So you see the check valve is right here, and it's right coming directly out of the discharge. It goes into a check valve. A check valve is going to greatly increase the life of your pump because it protects the pump from running backwards when every time it cycles and the motor getting and run in reverse. So having a check valve installed, which is not included in the pump, is really effective and helpful to having the pump last a long time. The pump will sit in a 30-gallon crock, perforated crock. You can see we drilled the perforations in here. We'll have the ejection, so we'll set the pump in here. This is the ejection line. It's going to come right out the side here, which will be directly underneath of the bottom of the window well. And the ejection line will be covered in backfill so that it's also protected against freezing and thawing and is also out of sight, which is also important. So if you don't have a drain tile, installing a sump pump system, there's other types of sump pump systems we can do. We can do internal sump pump systems or full basement waterproofing. But as far as just draining a window well and just having a window well drain that doesn't have a drain tile, having a pump, an external pump, is the most cost-effective and the most efficient way to get that done quickly. So this is also critical. This is a silk cloth. And silk cloth prevents the #1 threat to drain tiles and to sump pumps underground. Anything underground, water that's dirty getting in, it carries silt. Silt gets deposited. Eventually, it will fill or clog your pump or your drain tile. So what we do with our pump systems is we'll drop silk cloth on the bottom prior to putting the crock down, and then we'll actually wrap our crock in silk cloth. So we'll wrap it around like this. And then obviously cut it here and then drop it in so that now this is still able to collect water, but it blocks most of the silt.
Now that we have
our sump pump and our crock set all the way at the bottom of the footing, and we filled it and we wrapped it with silk cloth, and now we've finished filling it with gravel all the way around inside of the well. We are now going to backfill the dirt and tamp it at the same time so that it prevents sinkage. Ready to put the window in. We've created what's called a sill pan by flashing the bottom of the frame to protect it from water ever hitting the bottom. After that, we're going to put the window in with screws and shims, and the gap on the side will fill with the spanning foam, and then we're going to caulk it again and then flash it again. And by the time it's 100% done, it'll be flashed, caulked, probably sealed like 5 or 6 times.
Okay, we're back. Jordan, end of the week. Things look fantastic. We're looking at one and now the second of the 2 egress windows we saw earlier in the week. Big difference. So we know when we first took a look in on this basement, the window would start here and ended here. It was physically impossible to get out of this basement. The lighting, also an issue that it clearly has been addressed. Tell us a bit about the window. I can obviously see now the ease with which somebody could exit the basement. I think this window has some other features as well. Tell us a bit about that.
This is one of my favorite products that we sell in a specific way that it opens. In-swing casement really is the easiest way to meet egress with the smallest cut that we can do. This window is a European tilt and turn. It's made by a company called iPlast out of Germany. If you turn it this way, it pops in like that for natural ventilation. To the middle, it's going to open like a door to get out of. It's 6 square feet, net clear opening, it meets all the code criteria. The window well itself, obviously, no less than 9 square feet, and the height of the steps, no less than 18 inches up, and all of that. So the codes are all met, and yeah, done deal.
Well, it's dramatic. Greatly enlarged the well. There's a built-in ladder, so if someone does need to get out, just in case of an emergency, window pops right open, out, up the ladder, and they're off to safety. Now, in this case, I know that we're doing a full remodel of the basement as well. There's always the finishing and trim. Tell us a bit about that process, finishing up the window itself.
So essentially, we're just gonna build walls inside here, put our insulation in. We just did the sealing of the walls with dry lock. But all that's going to be done with the basement remodel. We're going to put an interior frame and have an outside corner. Essentially, it's going to make a little window seat here with an extension jamb and drywall corners. And then typically people leave it like that, or you could add a custom trim package inside with a sill, a DC98, any sort of casing or trim you wanted to add. But yeah, this is essentially basically done until we add framing and drywall inside. So.
Yeah, very good. Job well done. It's going to make a big difference in this home, and I appreciate you having us along this week. Thanks, Jordan.
Happy to have you. All right, everybody, thanks so much for watching. We are JDS Home Improvement, the Maryland Egress Specialists. And remember, egress windows save lives.